Hey, everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. I got to talk to a great leader, Kathy Hadizadeh. Kathy empowers the whole person, coaching for leadership excellence and creating the legacy you desire. And here's her other tagline: your heart knows the way, let your mind take you there. I love all that. You're going to want to listen. I'm not even going to tell you any more of what Kathy talks about today, except this. And she talks about a bunch of other topics. But Kathy had a very, very bad brain injury that was caused by burnout. So leaders, you don't want to miss another second of this important conversation. Let's get at it.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. I have got such an inspirational leader with me today that is really going to give you priceless advice, and advice that you're really going to need as you go forward in leadership. So I'm just going to introduce her because it's a long title. It's a lot, but it is all worthy. Empowering whole person coaching for leadership excellence and creating the legacy you desire. Kathy Hadizadeh has joined me today, and I also like one of her mission statements here: your heart knows the way, let your mind take you there. Kathy, it is so fantastic to connect with you today. How are you doing?
It's a pleasure to connect with you, Kenny, and I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathy, you've got a lot of important messages to get to leaders that you do every day. You're doing phenomenal work. I want you to take your time and tell your backstory, and then we'll dive into why it is so relevant for leaders today. But you have an amazing story to tell. So what's your backstory and what led you to be so passionate about doing the work you're doing today?
hmm Sure, I'd be happy to share with the audience. I come from a background of engineering. So, as an engineer, I came to this country and I went to corporate America, and I enjoyed a lot of parts of the corporate America life, work, and even the what it takes to go up the ladder and building that executive presence and all of those kind of things. But there is one element in here that was has been a big factor, and that is the element of the fear that I accumulated along the way. So I came very fearless at the beginning because I was very much believing in my heart that whatever I want in life, I can find a way to get it. And as I lived and as I became acclimated to the life in this country, and life in this country comes with credit, and you start spending and consuming, and you start changing your lifestyle as your level of income goes different, and you all of a sudden realize that you have to run, and with that running comes all of these things, and that had brought a fear in me without even acknowledging it along the way. And I was not aware of how much that was having an impact in me, and how much some of my decisions were impacted by the fact that if I stop, this whole thing stops. It's like a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
The moment that you stop, this whole thing vanishes.
Yes.
And and plus, I had lost some of that touch with, okay, I'm helping building these multi-million-dollar softwares for these big companies, but is this really what I was designed to do? Is this what gives me satisfaction in life? So I had some questions, but I really didn't have time to answer those questions, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because I was running, as I said,
Yeah.
on the imaginary treadmill. And one other thing that I had not paid attention to it was that I had taken my brain and my ability to think and problem solve and do all the fantastic things that you do in the corporate world for granted. And I was thinking, well, the brain, I wasn't even thinking. I'd never thought about the brain, to be honest with you, all these years. And yes, there were times that I felt tired and depleted and all of that. And then at that time, the only solution that came to me was that take a take a vacation. So I remember clearly one time at DirecTV, it was like maybe a little bit after summer, and I felt like I cannot do this even one more week. I was
Wow.
something is not right. And my only solution in my mind was that I went and bought 4 tickets to go to Riviera Maya. That was my solution at that time, but that was the extent of my knowledge at that time. And obviously, going 1 week to Riviera Maya doesn't change anything. I mean, it really does. Um, but uh, but that was the thing I could think of, and why I'm sharing this with the audience is that I want your audience to pay attention to the thing. If you are feeling exhausted and you take a break and you feel rejuvenated, you're not burnt out, because this term is used a lot. But
Yes.
if you go on vacation and you come back and you feel like, okay, my body, my mind, my soul, everything is still out of whack, and I am not really motivated to go back to that work, then we are talking about burnout. So
That's
the
burnout.
difference between burnout and exhaustion is recovery.
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is a really huge thing, because I cannot tell you how many times a day people come to me, and I work with very big high achievers, that their level of energy is really important for them. And they come and tell me, oh my God, Kathy, I'm burnt out. And I'm like, no, you are not burnt out. Let's
Mm.
understand if you're really burnt out, because burnout is a condition that chronically impacts your health in different directions, that you will not see it today or tomorrow morning. You will see it when you have that heart attack. You will see it when you have that diagnosis that you don't want to hear about it. The impact is along the way, and people do not realize that. So the fact that you are exhausted per se does not mean that you are burned out.
Mm.
So coming back to this story, this was a side note. Um, I did not take care of my brain, and I think I was under a lot of too much pressure that I didn't know how to deal with it, and I had a I had an accident that I thought that it's just an accident, but it was not an accident, because my brain was so depleted at that time, in my opinion, I mean, that it could not recover itself. So it became a really severe condition that took me on a journey.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Please keep going. What was that journey like? Well, first, let me ask this, Kathy.
Mhm.
Um, that moment that you realized that it was actually something wrong with your brain, and I loved how you really laid it out perfectly, the difference between burnout and exhaustion.
Mhm.
Um, the moment you realized that it was something more, uh,
Mhm.
take us back to that moment. How did you feel, and now what action did you want to take?
I have to be honest with you. I was seeing signs that the way I am going is not the right way, but I really did not know how to change lanes or how to um, make a big shift. I always had mentors in my corporate America world, and I always mentored people, but mentoring and coaching are very different things. And at that time, the universe actually brought me 2 coaches, and I didn't know anything about coaching. So I was not, you have to have that openness in you. So even though I had the conversation with those 2 coaches at that time, because I did not know much about it and I did not have the openness, I was like, how is this even possible? They do
Mm.
not go to my work. They do not know what pressure I'm under. How could they possibly partnering with them and investing this amount of money with them? Because coaching is expensive. how could that really help me in this situation, considering that I really don't have time? So there is, I even God, or I believe in God and I believe in universe, and I like it was sending me some signals, but because
Yes.
I did
Yeah.
not have that openness in my mind, I was not able to take advantage of it, frankly. So I kept going at the pace that I was going, and that pace honestly was not a healthy pace, considering that I was a mom of two young kids, and I'm a human and I get exhausted, and um, I was having this big job that I was hiring people for it. I had really, I was under a lot of pressure to prove myself to that environment. I was having a person, like another VP level person at that time, that he was actually bullying me at the workplace,
Oh,
but
wow.
I did not know really what to do.
Yeah,
Honestly, I did not know what to do. And I'm saying this, all of this openly, because there might be people who are in my shoes. I mean,
definitely.
my shoes
Yeah.
at that time that I was, and I really was like, I don't know what to do besides coming and burning my husband's ear off, which he was amazing to listen to me, but he was not qualified to help me with that part of the journey, or talking to my friends. My friends are not trained or designed to be helping me. I mean, pay attention to the fact, who do you spend time to get advice if you are in a jam-packed situation?
Yeah.
Is the your friends, out of respect, out of love, out of friendship, they will listen to you while they are washing dishes or they are driving, or whatever is it that they are doing, but they are not trained to help you.
Yeah. Wow.
That's the thing I learned in a very, very hard way in life.
Yeah. Wow. You really painted a picture of what led to this. So I now want to know, how did you recover? What led you to that road to recovery?
Um, so the road to recovery for me was one sentence, to be honest with you, but that one sentence really shook me. So I went on a journey. I had a concussion, and the concussion, after like 2 months, I still was not able to talk, to walk, to do anything. Like I couldn't even have a conversation for 5 minutes, or I couldn't look at the screen for 3 seconds.
Wow.
It was like very, very severe situation. And when they sent me to a neurologist, and when we went to neurologist, he looked at me and said, unfortunately, there is nothing I can give you.
Mm.
And I was, shouldn't you be having some kind of, I don't know, magic pill or magic drug or magic, I don't know, something magic. I mean, I believe
Yeah.
science, in science. And he said, no, there is really nothing I can give you. The only thing that I can tell you is that you need to relax your brain.
Mm.
That sentence really changed the course of my life, because I really sat with, how do I relax my brain? That's a really $1 million question. I mean, this
Wow.
organ, I have thought about my limbs, I have thought about my neck because I had a stiff neck at times. I had thought about a lot of parts of my body. But honestly, the brain, I really hadn't thought about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Except when I had a headache, I thought I had a headache, but I hadn't thought about the brain and relaxing the brain. And I was like, how do I relax my brain? This is an organ that even doesn't sleep. So what is he telling me?
Mm.
And that really set me off on really going and understanding, how do we relax our brain?
Mm. Mm. So how do we relax our brain? That, I mean, and there are, I'm sure you've run across this a lot now in your work, and you probably can remember people from before that they don't have an off switch. They just are constant going. And that sounded like it was you as well, especially with the two little ones,
Mhm.
combined with what you were doing at work.
Mhm.
So how do you relax your brain?
So I'm glad you brought up the concept of that on and off switch.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with awareness. Look, the light behind me is on, and if I leave this room, I have to be aware and have the intention and know how to turn off that light.
Yes.
so I can do that. So that awareness is something that we need to build in ourselves as
Mm.
humans in our connected age.
Mhm.
Maybe if we and I were talking 40 years ago, we will not be having this topic. But our world has drastically changed with the advance of internet, with the advance of access to knowledge and data, with the fact that we do not need even to wait for the morning paper to come to see what is happening in the world. Everybody can wake up, and the first thing is that they scroll all of these things and see what's happening in the world, if that's what you care about. But most
Right.
people look at their emails first, but that's a different story. But look at how our world has changed. It has drastically changed, and we are
Yes.
going to another phase of change with the generative AI. Yes, the speed of generating things is going to go up tremendously. The speed of reaching us as consumers in a personalized fashion is going to change considerably. There are a lot of changes that is happening, but think about it, our brain is not designed for this speed of change.
Mm.
It
Right.
is not designed,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
we are enjoying a ride that is also shooting ourselves in the leg. So we have to learn to draw the line somewhere for us. Like,
Mhm.
we have to become more aware of our own tendencies. That on and off button that you're telling me, yes, you can learn to be aware of putting your phone somewhere and allow yourself to be without the phone and trust that the world is not going to come to an end.
Yeah.
But how many of us do we actually
Yeah.
consciously do that during the day? Consider this. I don't think you can go anywhere in a waiting room of a doctor office that people are not on their phones. Nobody even looks at the magazines anymore.
No.
The magazines are
No.
redundant in a way
No.
because everybody is in their world on their phone. People do not talk to each other. The small talk, does it even exist? I live in LA, and in LA, people drive in their own little cars mostly. There is not that much public transportation per se. So we are going into our own cocoons more and more, which is not good for our brain because a healthy brain is a social brain. That's number one. Then we start complaining about loneliness, and loneliness is a big factor. Loneliness is a can contribute to the depression, which the general surgeon said depression is costing the economy how many amount of dollars that it is costing the economy because it is a big epidemic in our nation. So you see how all of this is related, and that on and off switch to become more conscious and aware. How am I showing up? Is this person next to me? Do I want to talk to them? When my accident happened, this is one of the things that really set me off on the whole person and paying attention to awareness. When my accident happened was that I was playing with my kid in the park,
Mhm.
and there was another gentleman in there whose kid was running around with my kid, and the gentleman was on the phone. And I played with both of the kids. We were playing Piggy and Wolf, and I was the wolf, obviously. Uh, so, and when that when I hit my head and I fell on the floor, and the amount of pain was really high, so I was like really like out of this world for a little bit. And I have like a 3-year-old with me, and this gentleman only looked up from his phone, and I couldn't move from, I was on the ground and I couldn't move. He looked up from his phone for a second and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Am I bleeding?" Because it was on top of my head and I couldn't see. And he said, "Yeah, you're bleeding. You better get that checked out." That was the amount of humanity that he
My
expressed.
gosh. Wow.
And that was such a monumental moment for me later when I was looking at this. What is happening to us as humans?
Yes. Yes.
What is
Yes.
happening to us?
Yes.
Do I
Yeah.
want my kids to become this person? No. I want my kids to have compassion. I want them to understand empathy. I want them to understand if somebody is sitting there their head is bleeding. Maybe I can say, can I call you somebody for you? Can I call your husband for you? I couldn't call, and I had to wait for my 7-year-old to come and call my husband. There is a lot to unpack in here when we
Yes.
talk about humanity. And I want to invite everybody to really consider, can I be more present
Yes.
with myself, with the people around me, when I go out, when I am around other people? Can I really be more present?
Yes. Absolutely. Wow. I mean, I'm so mad at that guy that just sat there on his phone and just hey, are you okay? How about getting up, helping you to sit down and making a call for you? I just Kathy, this is a riveting story and great advice that you're giving here for leaders. There's a couple of things that you also talk about that I want you to go ahead and expand on. Pause to rise is one of the things that is
Mhm.
also one of your mission statements
Yeah.
there. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I learned something, which is we get consumed by our ambition.
No doubt.
And we start setting goals for ourselves, and the goals becomes like islands. Like we get to it and we are like, oh, it's cool and fun and all things for a week, and then we are like, okay, what next? What next? What next? So we do not get a chance to really look at the grand schema of what is it that I want to feel in this world? What is the impact that I want to have out of my ambition? I mean, we're talking about ambitious people, so they have the capacity and capability to do things that if they set their heart and mind to it. But the thing is that we get consumed by the speed of life, and we don't get a chance to really check in with ourselves. Am I in the right direction? Is this really right? Still, if I thought about something 25 years ago, is this still true to my heart? Is this still feeling good? We really do not do that check-in. So, I one of the things I learned is that we need to have some space for reflective pause to do that kind of check-in with ourselves and really make sure we're still enjoying the ride of our life. And if we are not, then we need a space and somebody to hold that space for us to understand if doesn't feel right, what feels right?
Mm,
And how do I get there?
hmm.
So getting from that point A to point B, because as I said in my story, I was feeling something is off, something is not right, but I did not know what right at that time would look like for me, and I did not know how to get from point A to point B.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what coaching does. It helps you, and especially with this methodologies, that we slow down to look into what's happening. We kind of take an x-ray of what's happening. That is our point A. And then we see, okay, if there are things that are not feeling okay, what do you want to design it to look like? What's your point B looking like?
Mm-hmm.
And then for some people, point B all of a sudden feels like, oh my God, all right, but how do I get there? It might be that a person is in the near their 50s and maybe they do not want to just be a corporate America person anymore. I have a client that is like, he wants to be a board member
Uh-huh.
next and contribute to the world in a different way. So then the question becomes, okay, but do I have the capacity? Am I the confidence? How do I build that towards that? So my work with people is a combination of coaching and advisory because I come from that world. So we have a combination of the two to build the capacity and the courage and confidence or whatever it is needed internally while externally supporting you to connect to the right people, to have the right conversations so you can start movement. I can't tell you how hard it is that a person is stuck, feeling stuck.
Mm.
It's a
Wow.
really hard place to be in.
The hard place to be is right. Wow. Wow. Kathy, this is amazing. I want to just ask one more question that'll probably cover a lot, and I want to give you time to certainly talk about how people can connect with you. Um, you tie all this into that leadership development of leaders today is
Mhm.
lacking and is missing in a lot of things. What's
Mhm.
your hope for leadership development going forward in the future? How do we add this into that?
Yeah, so we have to look into the whole person. A lot of times I see, even in leadership development, if we compartmentalize that, oh, you are leader in the workplace, let's look into that, we are pigeonholing ourselves.
Hmm.
Because this person, the chances are they are also a father. The chances are also that they are a husband. The chances are that they are an athlete. There are multifacets to a human. Being a leader is part of being a person.
Yes.
So we have to understand the whole of a person before we want to design any kind of change to this equation. Because if we want to think systematically, if you want to make a change in any system, you need to understand the whole of a system before you go and tweak a piece. If you do not do that analysis, the chances are that you break the whole system. So that's one thing that I think we need to pay attention to understand the whole of a person before we jump into advising, oh, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need to develop more of this or that. Those solutions are not going to land if we do not understand the whole of a person.
That is just priceless advice. And so what I'm hearing is that, leadership development is not one size fits all. It's
No.
really looking at each individual on how, and I love that you add in, because people didn't ask me, hey, are you a dad? No one asked, do you play sports and stuff like that? I love that. Um, Kathy, you're amazing, and I want to thank you first for being so transparent with your story. And I'm I know this for a fact that there's going to be people that will listen and will now question themselves a little bit. Am I on that treadmill? Am I on my way to something like this? And maybe this will cause them to pause and stop. And
Mhm.
and certainly hopefully it causes them to connect with you. How can people connect with you, Kathy?
Sure. I invite them to connect with me on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. I post, I respond to people. I would love to hear from them on LinkedIn. They can check my website, but I would say my LinkedIn is pretty active, and that would be a good place to start.
Okay. Awesome. 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 Well, listen, I wish the best for you, continued success, and thank God you are healthy now. But your advice is, especially in the world, like you said, it's changed so much in the last 4 years,
Mm.
and it's going to be changing a lot more. And
Yes.
and we're in these environments where we think we have to just be on all the time, where because our phone goes off, we've got to check it. Oh my gosh, I can't let this wait. And you're saying exactly the opposite. And you're talking about long-term health here and long-term success as well. The healthier you are, the more successful you're going to be. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kenny, for having me, and thanks to your audience for listening to us today.
Oh, it's been my honor. So we'll leave it there, folks. This has been Kenny and Kathy. This has been the Leading from the Middle podcast. We'll talk to you real soon.